Welcome to this week's Garage Devotional. You see I'm wearing another hat. It says Dodge Charger. It's the last hat that I have until I get another one, and I show you that one. Hey, we are in part 9 of our series through Proverbs, and we're starting chapter 6 today, but we're going to break up chapter 6 over multiple weeks because there's so much in there, and we just want to take it in smaller chunks. But let me read chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, have given pledge for a stranger, if you are snared in the words of your youth, caught in the words of your youth, then do this, my son, and save yourself, for you have come into the hand of your neighbor. Go hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler. Solomon is saying, don't enter quickly or unwisely or commit to something or promise something because you're going to be caught in a trap usually. How many of us have promised something before we gave it any thought or hardly any thought and it became a disaster? Or we committed to something before getting all the information and only to have it blow up or leave us in debt? All of us have had this happen at least once or twice or a few times in our life or multiple times. And each time it doesn't end well. In my early 20s, I needed money for college, so I decided to sell my 1970 Cuda to buy a more economic car, and so I bought a late 1950 Volkswagen Bug from a friend of mine's brother. He said it was fully restored, so I sold my Cuda, way undervalued it because I didn't research its value at that time. The Bug arrived, and it was not restored. It had an old 6-volt electrical system in it, and it did not last more than a year for me. I committed to something I didn't research. I acted hastily instead of taking my time to learn all that I could know to make a wise decision. Remember, Solomon is training young people here who have the tendency to commit or to jump first before thinking. Solomon's wisdom here applies to us whether we're 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old and up, or even if we're only 18 years old, whatever it might be, it applies to all of us. We can be led by our hearts too many times, but we are to act out of our minds and out of wisdom, Solomon says. Solomon's lesson here applies to those who are elderly as well as those who are young. It applies to all of us. There are all kinds of scams today targeting seniors, and they get caught in these things. Let us be honest. Every age group needs Solomon's wisdom in this area. Here are a few thoughts that I want to pull out for us today. 1, pause before you act. Take a day or two or even a week or two before acting. And that says here in James, know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Let's be slow at what we're acting at here. Let's take time. He finishes it with, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and he will give us wisdom. But let him ask in faith. So we need to ask in faith for that wisdom and follow through on that wisdom. Secondly, do the work. In other words, take time to get informed on what you're promising to do or what you're committing to. Get informed about it. Find out before you sign that loan agreement. Find out before you loan money to somebody else or whatever it might be. Find out first. Third, get out quickly. If you made a mistake, get out quickly. If you or I made a hasty decision that we should not have done, then we need to do our best to get out of it, even if it's going to cost us something, but to get out of it quickly. Lastly, if it looks good, it probably isn't good. If it looks good and it looks great and you haven't researched it, it probably won't be good. Don't commit. Don't promise. Just say no If you're not sure, if you don't understand it, you don't know what's going on, but your heart's leading you, just say no, that you're sorry, you're not in a place to do this at this time. Remember, wisdom is the right use of knowledge. So we want to use it rightly. And we need to learn to pause before we commit. Pause before we take on something that we don't fully understand. Pause, research, learn, and then act. We'll see you next week.